Hello, and welcome to this overview of new releases that I read that were published in October 2023. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot, and you're watching Random Olive Reads. First up is His Mistress, His Muse, and Other Madness by Charlie Lane, which is book 3 of the Art of Love series. The youngest son of a Marquess is completely cynical of those who lead an artistic lifestyle, since he has seen the financial destruction such patronage has caused his own family. As one of the remaining loose ends of his father's will, Theo has been finding new patrons for artists that his father had supported, so that the family will finally be released from this financial burden. When he meets Cordelia, he is resentful of her lush accommodations since his own siblings had to work hard and go without. He's even more irritated to learn that she does not have any artistic talent whatsoever and has no idea why she was supported at all. Well, Cordelia fell into lonely circumstances after her father died and her fiancé abandoned her, so she is grateful to the old Marquess for saving her. In trying to become independent now that she's at risk of being kicked out of her home, she aims to open an art school, but she needs donations to run it. Theo and Cordelia agree to work together in attending an artistic house party so that he can collect gossip for his satirical cartoons and so that she can try to solicit donations for her school. Although Theo and Cordelia have had an antagonistic relationship so far, they need to pose as lovers to attend the party, and all of their physical desires bubble up during the course of the party. We get to see these two finally open up to each other about their past. You'll Be My Duke by Darcy Burke is the prequel novella to the Matchmaking Chronicle series. Cecilia and John dislike each other because of some mishaps that happened 5 years ago when they were both young and immature. Now they are at a house party where their parents are trying to set them up together. Both insist that the other will not suit, but they end up stranded together in a snowstorm. With the forced proximity, they talk out their issues and anger at each other, discovering that they can get along and that they're attracted to each other. It's a pretty quick turnaround there from hate to love, but still really fun to read. The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanson is a fantasy romance and book 1 of the Hurricane Wars series. Taliesin and Alaric fight on opposite sides of a war, each wielding a different powerful form of magic. While they haven't yet killed each other, the yearning to do so is certainly there. Amidst one of their skirmishes in territory where they're both trespassing, Taliesin learns that she might be the long-lost heir, living as an orphan after being sent away during a civil war. She ignores this newfound connection and returns to her comrades at the height of war. After Alaric's side wins the war and Taliesin is forced to retreat, she begs for sanctuary inside her homeland. In exchange, Taliesin must take her rightful place as heir and learn politics and diplomacy at her grandmother's side. Months later, Alaric is trying to gain control of this territory, and a political marriage to the heir is proposed. He has no idea that the heir in question is Taliesin, and he is both shocked and pleased to find her alive and his betrothed. We spend the rest of the book in marital and diplomatic negotiations in preparation for the wedding and the alliance, with lots of angry banter and fighting. Now, both of these characters are deeply insecure due to their respective upbringings and are completely unable to trust each other due to being on opposite sides of the battlefield. With them truly being enemies, glimmers of attraction and tenderness between them are all the more meaningful. Who Needs a Duke by Amanda Mariel is book 5 of the Fated for a Rogue series. Catherine is the sister of a duke who does not want to get married because she likes her independence and wants to continue her charity work with orphans. She thinks that she needs to do this secretly, and any future husband would forbid her from continuing. Charles is tired of the title-hungry mothers and debutantes and would like to avoid being targeted for matrimony this season. When he hears that his friend's sister would also like to avoid marriage, he develops a plan that will hopefully satisfy them both. Catherine and Charles then spend the rest of the season in a fake courtship, then fake engagement, and with all the time they're spending together, they actually fall in love. The Earl Was Wrong by Britt Bell is book 1 of the Graydon series. Sebastian is trying his best to be the stuffiest earl in town since his debaucherous parents were embarrassing and his father was incapable of being financially responsible. When he finds that his younger sister is skirting ruin, his friends advises that he take a wife. Sebastian asks his trustworthy aunt for a recommendation, and she points out Emmeline, the sister of a viscount who appears to be practical and responsible. Emmeline is surprised to find the handsome Earl asking her to dance, then asking to court her, but she believes that he would be her only chance at marriage and children and agrees to marry him. When While Emmeline tries her best to be a good wife and member of her new family, Sebastian is cold and distant. He has an underlying fear of love and passion, believing that he'll turn into his flighty and irresponsible father if he gives in to such emotions. Basically, Emmeline is awesome throughout this book, and Sebastian is the one who needs to grow and realize that the woman and family he has in front of him is what really makes life worthwhile. Dreaming of a Duke Like You by Sarah Bennett is book one of the Romancing the Dukes series. Vivian is the sister of a young baronet who has gotten himself into a load of gambling debt after the bad influence of his friends. She tries to appeal to the gambling hell owner Gabriel for a reprieve since they're really very poor and unable to pay the debts. He is a shrewd businessman and refuses, leaving her to worry over her brother's financial situation. Gabriel soon learns that he's actually the legitimate son and heir to a duke, despite being abandoned at an orphanage after his mother's death. He has inherited an impoverished estate, a dragon of a grandmother, and 6 unruly sisters. He and his sisters all need polishing in order to fit in with London society. Vivian and her brother are still worrying over their debts to Gabriel, with their stepfather's treachery looming over them, but Gabriel hasn't had time to deal with that yet. Eventually, Gabriel comes to an arrangement with Vivian where he will forgive the debt completely if she will help in tutoring his sisters for society. This one had a bit of a slow start as Gabriel and Vivian dealt with their respective problems, but their bargain and proximity to each other really doesn't begin until halfway through the book. However, once Vivian starts to see how kind Gabriel is to his sisters, they very quickly fall in love from there. A Holly Jolly Ever After by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone is a contemporary romance and book 2 of the Christmas Notch series. Ex-boy band member turned pizza mogul Callum is set to star in a sexy Santa movie after gaining notoriety after a sex tape was leaked. Former child actor and all-around good girl Winnie is in a tough spot following her divorce and an illness that prevented her from starring in last year's Christmas movie, and is now given the opportunity to rebrand herself by co-starring with Callum. She's super hesitant at first, but finally decides to give it a try. Upon her first meeting with Callum and the movie's intimacy coordinator, Winnie soon realizes she's over her head and has no idea how to portray sexual satisfaction on screen, having never experienced it off screen. She's got plenty of homework to do there, but her super conservative, purity based upbringing is definitely creating a lot of blocks. Callum has his own insecurities of being the least sought after boy band member and always being looked at as a hookup rather than relationship material. He's totally excited to work with Winnie after having had a crush on her since they were teenagers. With Winnie's insecurities in the bedroom, she asks Callum to help her in that department, agreeing that it's all for the sake of research and her performance in the movie. There's definitely a lot of steam in this book as Callum takes on the role of tutor for Winnie. While the physical attraction between Winnie and Callum definitely exists, neither are sure about their long-term compatibility, being total opposites in the personality and family dynamics department. It takes a bit of emotional growth for both of them, for Winnie to learn to trust someone and for Callum to behave a bit more responsibly. This was a super humorous read with tons of support from our favorite characters from book 1 of the series. The Devil of Drury Lane by Tracy Sumner is book 6 of the Scandals and Scoundrels of Drury Lane series. Mercy is the awkward daughter of an earl who would rather draw than comport with society. She's definitely pining after the youngest son of a duke next door and draws his picture. Many years later, Mercy has become a lady who follows all the rules of society in public while pursuing her art in secret and even taking commissions from Drury Lane. When Damien sees her artwork in a shop window, he spends more time at the theater trying to track her down. Once these two reconnect, they share a liaison along with their stories. It's a maddening few days where Mercy gets to indulge in her girlhood fantasies, and Damien questions whether fate exists. This one was a quick and steamy read. Training the Duke by Alexa Aston is book 7 of the Suddenly a Duke series. Finola is the daughter of an earl who was orphaned and then neglected by her much older sisters, only to be taken in by a lonely baron. In her first season in London, Finola was publicly humiliated by a viscount who led her to believe he was courting her. After that, she retreated back to the country where she works to train hunting dogs. Many years after that, we meet Sai, who has recently left the army after an accident left him blind in one eye. Sai is the younger son of a duke, neglected by his father and older brother. When he returns home, he finds that his father has died and his brother is now the duke. His brother allows Sai to live at the hunting lodge at the edge of the property. One day, while Finola is walking her dogs, the dogs discover and befriend Sai and his charge Birdie. Finola and the Duke's lands border each other, though Sai does not admit that he's the brother of a Duke. We have a quick and easy friendship between Finola and Sai, with Birdie needing the use of Finola's schoolroom and learning to train dogs with Finola. The romance here builds very naturally, and it seems like these two are perfect for each other and will be well suited at Finola's home. However, we have Sai's looming secret and the fact that his brother is quite ill. I really enjoyed this book and seeing another woman in an unconventional profession in this series. A Duke's Lesson in Charm by Sophie Barnes is book 3 of the Gentleman author series. Callum and Emily have known and avoided each other for years because they keep having physical mishaps and calamities with each other. Trodden toes, ruined gowns, falling in a fountain, and even a dress being burned. It's fairly obvious to the reader that Callum is clumsy because he's nervous around Emily, although she just thinks he's an oaf. One day at the park, Callum's orphan ward seems to perk up when coming across Emily's dog, and Callum arranges for the boy to spend more time with the dog. Callum and Emily talk out their clumsiness and misunderstandings and slowly develop a friendship with each other. It's nice seeing them interact and form a bit of a family unit around Callum's ward. When Emily's grandmother is ill, she lies about a courtship with Callum to make her grandmother happy. We also get to catch up with the couples from the previous 2 books of the series, and we get to see the progress of the romance novel that these 3 gentlemen have been writing together, and we'll see what Emily's involvement is with the publication of this book. The Duke Starts a Scandal by Sophie Jordan is book 4 of the Duke Hunt series. A new duke and his housekeeper have gotten off to a rocky start and now seem to have a contentious relationship. Susanna has been the housekeeper at the estate despite her relatively young age for the role and is irritated by the arrogance of the new duke. Lucian had lived in poverty with his younger sisters until it was discovered that he was a duke, and he has a scandalous secret of how he used to earn money to support his family. These two don't trust each other much, but Lucian's irritation is mostly due to the stress of his new role and the attraction that he feels for Susanna. A house party that Lucian hosts sets up even more trouble as Susanna is confronted by a man who knew her when she was young. We get to find out Susanna's secrets and what brought her to work as a maid and then a housekeeper all those years ago. The romance between Lucian and Susanna is pretty straightforward once we get past the disgruntled misconceptions that they have, and we get to see them openly and honestly communicate with each other and sort of wrap up the series. Kilty as Sin by Caroline Lee is book 1 of the Kilty Pleasure series. Barclay, who is one of the king's hunters, has a mission from the king to track down a lady who has run away and bring her back to her father so that she can marry the neighboring laird. He finds and rescues Grace from a gang of men who captured her outside the convent where she was hiding and then proceeds to bring her home. Grace is adamant that she not marry the man she's engaged to, since that man is cruel and monstrous. Although Barclay is desperately attracted to Grace, he attempts to fulfill his duty to the king and remain honorable. We get to see how Barclay's past ties into Grace's future when he finally wises up and decides to rescue her from her betrothal. The Rake and the Rose by Eva Devon is book 3 of the Once Upon a Wallflower series. Many years ago, Alex's father was a patron of an artist and then withdrew his support when that man behaved badly. This caused the entire family to end up in dire financial condition, including Alex's childhood friends Harry and Rose. While Alex and Harry were able to continue their friendship as adults, Harry insisted that Alex stay away from Rose completely, as his rakish reputation would harm hers. Present day Rose works as a writer and is way too pious and self righteous, in my opinion. With her history of being let down by her father's rakish behavior, she seeks out to right the wrongs of humanity by exposing the harms of such behavior. When she needs access to a club, she ends up asking Alex for help, who does so with Rose in disguise as his mistress. This book has Rose being the morally uptight person, needing to let go and let joy into her life, along with accepting that Alex is not the depraved soul that she thinks he is. Alex is mostly a charming, positive sort of fellow who uses his money to support artisans to the best of his ability and also tries to see the positive side of life. Thank you so much for watching this video. Links to all of these books are in the description box. Like and subscribe to get updates, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.